Ba 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 da ba ba. Wait a minute. No, that's not. That's Harry Potter. That's not Game of Thrones. Um, but no. Oh, it's ba 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 da ba 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 da ba ba da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba ba da ba. Hey guys, I'm sure that every single human being on the internet knows that Game of Thrones season 8 is out. And it's fucking bad. Not a joke though, seriously. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about Game of Thrones season 8. So obviously this whole video is gonna be spoilers for the new season. Also, I'm very ill. I caught a horrible cold as soon as my semester ended. So I'm gonna be sniffling, and I sound like dog shit, but I need to talk about this because it's relevant now, and I'm very bad at talking about things in relevant times. So I'm pushing myself to make it this as fast as humanly possible. So, first of all, before the whole season had even come out, I was immediately worried about how the season was going to go, because when they announced that it was going to be 6 episodes instead of well, the last one was 7, which is like already a bad thing. I was like, I don't know why the fuck they made it seven episodes. But the second they told us there were 6, I was like, oh, this is gonna suck, because Game of Thrones for 6 seasons was 10 episodes, and all of them were around an hour. So it was like, the second they started cutting down on it, you knew that the quality was going to go down. And before watching season 8, I watched everything. Like, I watched season 1 to season 7 in the span of about 3 weeks, because I wanted to, like, be caught up, because this is the finale. So I was going to be like, all right, I want to make sure I remember everything and I have everything fresh. So first I'm going to go through a small recap of what happened this season, and I'm going to try to be objective as possible without giving any of my opinion until the end, because I have a lot of opinions. Okay, episode 1. Jon and Daenerys reach Winterfell. Theon saves Yara. Euron fucks Cersei. Cersei refuses to send her troops north to fight the Night King. Jon rides a dragon and finds out he's actually a Targaryen. Jaime rides north to Winterfell with all the Lannister army. Pretty simple. Not a bad episode. Not a lot happened, but it wasn't a bad episode. Episode 2. Jaime reaches Winterfell and finds out that Cersei double-crossed them. Wow, who would have thought? Jaime apologizes to Bran for pushing him out the window, and Bran says okay, because he's not Bran anymore. I need you to remember that. That's pretty important. We find out from another Night's Watchman that the White Walkers are marching south through Winterfell. They busted through the wall with the dragon they took. They make preparations and realize they need to protect Bran because the Night King wants to kill Bran because he has all of people's history within him. It's just a lot of fluff and character interaction between Sandor and Arya. Arya fucks Gendry, etc., etc. Episode 3, the White Walkers reach Winterfell. The castle is overwhelmed and a metric fuck ton of people die in the battle, including what appears to be all of the Dothraki and Unsullied, because they get extremely overpowered in the beginning. And then, not in any order, Theon, Ed, Lyanna Mormont, Beric, and Jorah Mormont, along with thousands of soldiers. After the Night King killed Theon, who was defending Bran, Arya manages to pull a sneaky on him and stab him, killing him and causing all the other White Walkers to fall. The episode ends with Melisandre killing herself by turning to dust. Episode 4. They have a burning of all those who died. Gendry is promoted from bastard to Gendry Baratheon. The air storms end. Gendry proposes to Arya, who denies it and says that she was never meant to be a lady. Daenerys tells her advisors she wants to immediately march south, but they all say the men need to rest, but Daenerys decides to march south anyways. She also begs Jon not to tell people what his lineage is, but he ends up telling Sansa and Arya, who tells Tyrion, who tells Varys. Jon says bye to Ghost and Tormund, who march north back to the Wall, as all of Dany's forces, including a lot of Unsullied and Dothraki, despite being seemingly wiped out in the Battle of Winterfell, march and sail south. She was flying with her fleet over the ocean. She is then ambushed by Euron's fleet, and they kill Rhaegal, her second dragon, and capture Missandei. Cersei, who is not prepared to fight Daenerys, tells her she will never surrender and beheads Missandei in front of everyone. Episode 5. Varys tries to assassinate Daenerys through poison. Tyrion finds out, tells Daenerys, who then tortures Varys. Daenerys is trying to get ready to march on King's Landing, but Tyrion lets Jaime go to try and save him and Cersei from the siege. As Arya, Sandor Clegane, and Jaime go to King's Landing, Drogon and Dany nuke the entire fleet. Jaime finds and kills Euron on the shore, and Sandor tells Arya that this is his fight. Arya leaves as Sandor finds Qyburn, Cersei, and Selmy Mountain Gregor Clegane. The Mountain kills Qyburn very quickly and suddenly, and Sandor just lets Cersei pass while he and Gregor fight before he kills both of them. As the siege starts, the city and its defenders quickly surrender, but Dany decides to burn the entire city down instead, despite them ringing the bells of surrender. Cersei finds Jaime and the two of them die as the entire castle crumbles on top of them. Episode 6. After King's Landing's entire destruction, Grey Worm kills all of the prisoners despite Jon telling him not to. Tyrion finds the bodies of his last remaining family. Tyrion tells Dany he doesn't want to be her hand anymore. She says she knows that it's treason and takes him prisoner. Jon meets him and inexplicably defends Dany's choices, while Tyrion says that the fate of Westeros lies with him. Jon talks to Dany, Dany poorly defends her choices, and Jon kills her. Drogon notices his mother is dead, and instead of attacking Jon, he melts the Iron Throne and takes Dany's body away. One time skip later, Tyrion is taken to the lords of the current 7 kingdoms. Tyrion then proposes that Bran becomes king of everything because he is the three-eyed raven who knows all the world's history. All the 7 kingdoms agree except Sansa, who represents the North, and she says she wants the North to remain independent, and Bran says that's okay. They let Jon take the black instead of killing him, and Tyrion becomes Bran's hand. Grey Worm and the Unsullied sail for Noth. Sansa is crowned Queen of the North. Arya sails west of Westeros to see what's out there. The small council is made up of Brienne, Bronn, Davos, and Sam. Jon returns north to Castle Black and marches even farther north with the wildlings and Ghost by his side. And that's how the story ends. So the real question is, why was this bad? Why was the season so awful? Well, for one thing, the entire thing is extremely rushed. So the two writers, David Benioff and D.B.Y. Soros, a lot of people call them D&D, they completely rushed the entirety of it because they didn't want to work on Game of Thrones anymore. Essentially, they had gotten offered to make the next 3 Star Wars movies, and they just didn't care about Game of Thrones anymore. Like, essentially, it was literally just them being like, okay, we need to finish this so that we can leave and work on something else. Game of Thrones was meant to be 10 seasons long, so they rushed 2 whole seasons of character development and like plot into 1 6-episode season. So the season was extra short, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why. Like, I know that they wanted to finish it, but they could have at least given us like the full length season 6. Like the other seasons, and it probably would have been better. I don't think it would have fixed a lot of the problems that I have with it, but it definitely would have been better. One of the best things about the show was how slow and methodical everything was. So when fast things did happen, they were juxtaposed and felt even faster. Another thing the show did phenomenally was always maintain several character plot lines all at once, and it would handle pacing these plot lines extremely well, and it would always go back to check in on other characters. But by forcing these plot lines to progress extremely fast, it means that a lot of them had to be dropped. One of the reasons I fell in love with Game of Thrones is because the show was always convoluted, but it handled it perfectly. It never forgot anything, or at least it didn't for a very long time. The character was off screen, they were doing something. But in the most recent seasons, especially this one, if you don't see a character on screen, you have no clue whether or not they're doing anything. Because oftentimes it'll cut back to them from like after watching something else happening, and they'll be doing the exact same thing. So it's like, it doesn't make sense because people aren't acting like how people act. Several different plot lines and parts of the world are completely forgotten for this whole season, leaving everyone with hundreds of questions about hundreds of things that the entire show just wanted you to forget about. Here are just a few of the things that I was thinking about. I and my friends who were watching the final episode together. So, what happened to Dorne? Who is this Dornish man that represents Dorne? What happened to Illyria Sand? Illyria Sand killed all of the men in power in Dorne. Who the fuck is this guy? And why do we not know? Did Illyria Sand die in the crypts? I mean, I assume so. It's been like at least a year since it happened, but I'm just upset that we didn't get to see anything that happened to her or the rest of her daughters. What did the Eyrie do when they find out that Littlefinger had been killed? Was Robin totally fine with having his favorite uncle or whatever murdered by Sansa? He also just... who he didn't like in the first place. Like, he definitely didn't like Sansa that much. Why is there still a Night's Watch? If all the children of the forest are dead and all the remaining wildlings are united, then what does the Night's Watch need to do? There will never be any other White Walkers because the children of the forest can't make anymore. Why was Jon marching north? If the Northern Kingdom is free, why doesn't he work with Sansa and live south of the Wall where things are much safer? What happened to Winter? Do you really want me to believe that Winter, an integral season, doesn't exist now that the White Walkers are dead? I know that they did magic shit with the fog and the wind and the snow during the Battle of Winterfell to make so that the dragons couldn't see anything, but how in the world are they making the seasons happen all the time? It doesn't make any sense. That would make more sense. Actually, it wouldn't make more sense. It'd be really fucking stupid, but it would be better than what I'm assuming happened, was just they completely just dropped the plot of Winter is coming. Because there's scenes over scenes about characters literally sitting there talking about food reserves and trying to figure out how they're going to live for winter. And I understand that this takes place in Westeros, like a fantasy place, but they still live on a planet. Planets still have seasons, so I don't understand how they can make it so that fucking scary ice monsters are the ones that make winter come. What fucking purpose did this huge build-up on the Lord of Light have to do for you to just completely forget about when Melisandre blew away the wind? He clearly exists, considering the fact that he brought several people back to life and did a bunch of other shit. Like, if a god like that is able to do tangible miracles that several people can see, how are there not millions of followers of the Lord of Light? Followers that don't amount to, like, fucking 10 women wearing red robes, because that appears to be like the only people who follow Lord of Light throughout like the final seasons of the show. Did the Lord of Light really just light all these Dothraki swords on fire and then disappear for the rest of the plot? I don't get it. Like, he's done so much, and it seems like the entire last episode, they don't talk about him or any of that once. So what was the purpose of making us go through all of that? What's going on with Yara? Come on, she's my favorite character, not even a joke. She had like 2 lines this season. Despite being Ironborn and really tough, she was a just person. After seeing the rubble and the dead from Dany's freakout, I doubt she would have supported her regardless. Is she queen of the Iron Islands now? I know that they had a single throwaway line in episode 3 or something telling us that she had retaken the islands, but did the Ironborn accept her as their queen? Was there even anyone there? Any Ironborn left after Dany demolished the entire fleet? Clearly she is the queen of the Iron Islands because she's on the aristocratic council, but what is left to rule? Why don't we get to see any of it? We don't see any of her retaking of the Iron Islands. It is literally just a single line that is told to us. Why is there this weird fucking scene where Arya finds a horse in episode 5 after the city had been destroyed, only for her to not be riding it in the next episode? It was very clearly meant to be a symbolic thing, but they just completely disregarded it afterwards. There's so many characters that the show just forgets about. Like the chick who helped Bran through everything, Mira Reed. God, I could keep going. Like, what did they do with her? Why did she just disappear? I mean, assuming that we don't know where she went, but she went north of Winterfell and she's fucking dead. But we don't know that. They didn't tell us anything about her. I mean, I can keep talking about things that I have questions about, but I'm already sick of this. Like, it upsets me that so much potential that we had for all these other stories that they just didn't go anywhere. Also, yeah, apparently it turns out that rushing a story not only makes you forget about important storytelling aspects and finishing plot lines, but it also tends to go against logic and reason, because you just want to get shit done. There are a lot of times where I was watching the show and I could tell that the showrunners were thinking, boy, I hope they don't think about this, or whether or not this makes sense. Like how Daenerys, someone under a lot of emotional stress, was sitting on her dragon hundreds of feet above the air and somehow didn't see an entire fucking fleet of ships before they were able to shoot her dragon down. Even if they somehow managed to stay tucked behind a rock and hidden, how were they able to shoot her dragon down if they didn't have eyesight? For them to see her, she would have to be able to see them, and she just didn't see them? And it looked like she was looking in the direction of where her dragon got shot from when the dragon got shot. So it's like, you really want me to believe that Daenerys didn't see them? This massive fleet of ships? And then when Jon kills Daenerys, Drogon just lets that shit slide? Like, I know he's a Targaryen, but Daenerys is Drogon's mother. Also, why did he burn the Iron Throne? He's a fucking dragon. You think he knew what that shit meant? Oh my god. If he was like really angry and he was just like lashing out for his mother dying, he probably would have flailed around and burned everything. Not the throne specifically. Was there any reason or logic behind this other than, man, that looks cool. It's symbolic. It's like, I can't, come on guys. And, oh, during the Battle of Winterfell, why in the fucking world, when fighting a guy who can raise people from the dead to fight for him, would you put the people who can't fight in the fucking crypts full of dead people? What in the ever-loving fuck were you thinking? It's like, and, oh my god, picking Bran to be king, oh my god. Dude, I'll talk about that a little bit. I think the biggest, most frustrating thing about the season was how they treated the characters. That was another of the best things about Game of Thrones, was characters would go through hell and they would actually progress because of it. Character arcs would develop over years of progression and turmoil, and the majority of it always made sense. But with these seasons being so incredibly rushed and logic completely thrown out the window, of course they didn't keep to characterization important arcs. I think that the characters that were absolutely fucked over the most were Jon, Tyrion, Bran, Jaime, Missandei, and of course Daenerys. And I'll probably end up talking about Sansa and Arya too at some point. First off, Jon was meant to be the hero of the story. Like, we all knew that. He was an utterly just and good person. He had the sense of moral that made sense and a lot of people associated with. But instead of doing what his character should do and defending those who need help, those who are weaker, he defends Daenerys' heinous acts to Tyrion. And when he meets with Daenerys, he gives her one fucking line about killing thousands of innocents, and that's about all he does before killing her. Jon doesn't like killing people, even those that betrayed him. I know that he knew the fate of Westeros was in his hands, and that he would have to kill Daenerys anyways, but he barely even tried to talk to her about it before he killed her. Also, Tyrion, he spent the entire show being this clever little shit that people keep around because of how smart he was. And in season 7 onward, he was just a fucking worthless idiot. He had nothing to do with planning the fight of the Night King as far as we know. He had believed his dumbass sister would send troops to the north to fight the Night King. He willingly allowed the weak to be in the crypts of Winterfell. It just didn't make any fucking sense. And after doing all this shit, after acknowledging how stupid he's been, the head of the kingdom still listened to him when he suggested Bran to be king. Like, he tried to convince Cersei to help him, like, on 3 separate occasions. And it's like, you literally, as far as she's concerned, you've literally killed every single person that's ever mattered to her. So, I don't know why Tyrion thinks he's going to be able to negotiate with his sister for any reason. Oh, and, I want to talk about Bran. Why in the world was he ever asked to be king? Like, more than half of the people there have not had a single conversation with this kid. And those that did know that he isn't fucking Bran anymore. He literally said he wasn't Bran anymore like 3 episodes ago.
I'm sorry for what I did to you.
You weren't sorry then. You were protecting your family.
I'm not that person anymore.
You still would be. If you hadn't pushed me out of that window. And I would still be Brandon Stark.
You're not?
No. I'm something else now.
How did they forget this shit already? And out of all of them, he has literally done the least. Like, what kind of fucking story does he have in comparison to the others? He got pushed out a window, he went past the wall, and what the fuck did he do the whole time? He get carried around and saw some stupid visions. I understand that he is the history of the world now, but that doesn't mean he should be a ruler. I mean, he should be a council member. Bran has not once shown that he cares about other human life, at least not since he became the Three-Eyed Raven. In terms of who is the best story to tell, why in the world would Bran be the first choice? He got pushed from a tower? He went past the wall? That's pretty cool. Still, like, Arya traveled the world after watching everyone she loved die before her eyes, became a faceless man, got vengeance on her family, and killed the fucking Night King. I mean, I guess I could keep going. It's not like Sansa lived through being passed around from noble to noble like a common whore for so long, and her entire family was murdered, and despite being used as a pawn, she was able to remain strong, escape, and save her home through the allies she made. I understand that Arya didn't want to be queen, but Sansa sure did. And if we're talking about whose story was better, I'd say it was Sansa's over Bran's, especially since Bran was basically a useless lump for the entirety of his character arc. Like, you give this guy all these powers, but his powers are only there so he can be a target for the Night King plotline, and he never fucking uses them. And if we're talking about people who don't want positions of power too, Bran certainly didn't want it, or at least he didn't want it when Sansa told him he was the rightful heir to Winterfell, and he was like, hey, I'm not Bran anymore, so I'm not the rightful heir. But the second the fucking Iron Throne's metal puddle is offered to him, he's like, oh, fuck yeah, my name's Bran again. I guess my name's Bran. Bran the Broken, thanks. What a fucking joke. And oh boy, Jaime, the man who abandoned his sister in the South to go fight a supernatural force in the North, took the first chance he got to run back to his abusive sister. And this is after he fucked Brienne, a character that I really was hoping they wouldn't make stoop so low as to have sex with a sister fucker and a fucking traitor. He went right back to Cersei, and oh, it's like, why would they make him have sex with Brienne then? Like, what is the purpose of that? It's just, oh my god, I love Brienne's character. Like, I think she's been a very consistent character that's had a character arc, and she still has sex with fucking Jaime Lannister, this fucking idiot. Oh my god, but he still goes back to Cersei. And oh yeah, fuck Cersei. I don't like Cersei. I mean, a part of it, I never really like villain characters, first of all, and she's always just been like the bad guy of the show, but I never liked her because she never progressed. She was the exact same character day one that she was in The Last Day, plus a couple of traumatic incidents that just didn't change her at all, apparently, except for when she decided to bomb the entirety of her city. Yeah, that was kind of fucking stupid. It's like, I knew she didn't care about the people beforehand, but she just kind of turned into like a mustache-twirling, idiotic villain after that just wasn't even thinking like Cersei had been in the past. Like, she was supposed to be this like really smart, really conniving person, and like the entirety of season 8 she didn't do shit but sit there and then end up betraying Daenerys, and then that gets her killed. Like, it makes me sad because she had everything. Like, she had like months to prepare. She had the Lannister army and the Golden Company. She had Euron's fleet, and she still lost to Daenerys with her fucking like the quarter of the troops she had previously, and like only a third of the dragons she had before, and she's still lost. Like, I don't think that's very becoming of Cersei, this character that had been evil and like intelligent for so long, and she still loses after having everything. Everything was in her favor, and she's still lost. Also, Missandei was my favorite one of my favorite characters for a very long time. She was strong and quiet, but she was intelligent and clever. And she and Grey Worm both serve as fucking set pieces for this season. Literally nothing more. They don't do anything except act as plot progressors. And even then, they don't have no personality of their own. They're essentially just there to hit story beats and do nothing else. She had like 3 lines this entire season before getting decapitated. I love that her last line was Dracarys. I do feel like that is fitting. It's just how powerful she remained, even at the end. But I'm irritated that this character that had survived so much her entire life ended up where she started, in chains. And it's just kind of gross. Well, I guess that leaves you with one more person, and that's Daenerys. I'm sure that a lot of you have heard about the uproar about Daenerys' character being utterly disregarded, but I'm going to recap that really quickly. Basically, Daenerys' entire shtick was being a savior, rescuing people from slavery and wanting to break the wheel that kept the lower class low and the upper class high. She wanted to take over the Seven Kingdoms because not only did she feel she had a claim to it, but also she thought she would be a just ruler, and it seemed like that would be the case for a very long time. She was fair and did her best to save as many people as she could, but she wasn't soft. People who double-crossed her were punished, and despite the fact that she often let her emotions get the best of her, she put together a council of people to help her through times when she knew she wasn't using the best judgment. And she listened every single time they suggested something, except for in this season. For some reason, she suddenly decided the council she had was bad and did not listen to anything they had to say. Even before fucking Varys double-crossed her. Like, they told her that the soldiers needed to rest, but she marched anyways, and when they told her that the bells meant surrender, she torched the city anyways. In Season 7, Daenerys says, "I do not want to be Queen of the Ashes." Even if she has been serving people for years, that is the way that this world works. You literally learn that in the first episode, that sometimes the ruler's gotta do some bad shit. Like, we love Ned. Ned was this extremely just character, but he still has to execute people, because if he doesn't, then then rules will be broken, and if rules are broken, then that means chaos will ensue. So there needs to be some sort of order. So saying that because she was executing people, that means it's foreshadowing for her going evil, is really fucking stupid, because that means that every single person that's ever executed anyone is foreshadowing that character going evil. Jon certainly didn't go evil, and he executed several people. Every time Daenerys has been harsh or mean, there has been an equally kind act that she has committed. She lived for the people, and fans are upset that her arc culminated into her burning thousands of innocent people to death for almost no reason. It was like D&D had no idea that mourning and wanting to commit mass genocide are 2 different emotions that don't sequentially lead to another. And honestly, I find it insulting that D&D are trying to say that it's the Targaryen madness that had to come for her eventually. Like, that's some fucking bullshit. You were telling me that the lesson you were trying to teach, the lesson that someone's son or daughter is not guilty for the sins of their father, is actually a complete lie, and that you can only ever be what your parents were. That's just, it's so gross. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Why would they spend so much time building up this lesson that they're trying to teach us, and then just have her go crazy anyways? Going back and watching press reviews and cast interviews for this season really shows just how the cast felt about what was happening, especially Emilia Clarke, who spent the majority of her current acting career portraying a character she believed in.
Happy with how things ended. Yeah. She didn't say yes. You didn't say yes. Best season ever.
You can see how upset she was in the poor handling of her character. It is really disappointing, because the show was very good for a very long time. Seasons 1 through 4 are phenomenal. Like, I'd probably end up watching them again. But the thing is that shows the strengths of D&D. They aren't good writers, they're good adaptive writers. Like, they were very good at cutting out the extra stuff from the book that wasn't necessary. That was probably their biggest strong suit, was being able to cut all the extra shit out and keep a cohesive but interesting and well-paced story behind. The problem is that D&D, they ran out of books. Like, George R. had not written the final 2 books of the story that these remaining seasons were supposed to be about. So the idea is that apparently George supposedly told them how the story ends, and D&D just kind of rushed into making what they thought would be the ending of the story. And we really don't have any idea if that's true or not. George could have not said anything, and they could have just made an ending of the story, but I doubt it. But when the 2 of them tried to essentially write their own show is when it really started to fall apart, because they didn't know how to do that. They had always had something to go off of, at least since like season 5, when it started getting bad. That was about when they had started running out of books to base things off of. And I know that the title of this video seems clickbaity, but in truth, that's exactly how I felt after watching these last 2 seasons. There's this goofy image going around that perfectly exemplifies how Game of Thrones seasons were in terms of quality. I really, really love the first few seasons of the show. They're almost perfect in terms of pacing, characterization, and creative storytelling, but as time went on, the quality of the show kept declining, and I had stuck with it for so long at this point, I wasn't gonna just give up now. And man, these recent episodes they're just so bad. In the last couple of weeks, I told the person I'm dating that I wanted to watch Game of Thrones with them because they had never seen it before, but after watching season 6 to now again, I changed my mind. I told them that there are better shows to watch at this point, honestly. Although this season didn't represent the quality of the show overall, Game of Thrones isn't a show that you can just stop watching in the middle. It's a story that culminates into the sum of all of its parts, and these shitty parts are so shitty that it does bog down the rest of the show. I know that it's supposed to be about the journey, not about the destination, but what's the point of starting this super long and difficult journey that continually gets worse, only for the destination to be really, really shitty? It really pisses me off that D&D decided they were done with Game of Thrones despite HBO still wanting 2 more seasons. I don't know why HBO didn't just get other writers. Like, they could have found other people. And I understand that D&D got offered to work on Star Wars. Like, there's not many things that are a step up from the greatest show and the most popular show of all time. Doing something like this really fucks up someone's reputation in Hollywood, especially with all of this backlash that's going on right now and how upset fans are with how the show was handled. I don't get it. I mean, they had everything. Millions of dollars in budget, millions of fans, and it's funny how Game of Thrones died screaming because of greed and wanting to move on to more than what you've done previously. If you're considering picking up Game of Thrones now, I don't really think it's worth it. It's dozens of hours of commitment for a pretty shitty payoff. At this point, I'd honestly say just go watch something else. Go watch Killing Eve or Gentleman Jack. It's another HBO show. I suppose most people aren't exactly looking for gay shows to watch like I am, but both of them are good, so you should go watch them, especially Killing Eve. Season 2 is almost done, and it's really great. And hey, my name is StarlightSam. Until next time.